So in this case, we are going to consider as a continuation. Remember, we managed to work with the geometry of 2D shapes, basically working on the triangles, the properties of the triangles, if you still remember the first class that we had. So it will be best that you consider working with the playlist, all right? So you follow up the questions, the classes according to the playlist. They will be placed in the order that you're going to follow, so that you know this class is going to follow this class according to the topics that you are going to cover. So in this case, we are not going to consider the triangles because we managed to work on these ones, the types of triangles, and also the questions which are based on triangles. In this case, we are going to have a continuation which is based on the quadrilaterals. That is the types of quadrilaterals. So that is what we are going to be considering. What exactly is it that we are to refer as a quadrilateral? From the word quad, which is four, meaning to say, when we are to consider shapes, we are considering shapes which are referred to as four-sided shapes. These are four-sided shapes. We have four sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, which makes also to have four angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. As we have got four sides, it means we also have four angles. Just like what we had on a triangle. 3 sides. 3 angles. 1, 2, 3. So in this case, as we are to consider our quadrilaterals, which are four-sided shapes, there are also types. Just like triangles, you had types or how to classify the shapes that you're given as quadrilaterals. So that is the major part that you're going to have. So specifically, we are going to consider each shape. But as for you to understand the shapes that you're going to be having or that you're going to be working with in your syllabus, they are classified as, the first part is of the parallelogram. All right. In this case, we are supposed to be very careful because the parallelogram as it is just like a branch name which refers to a lot of shapes which follow under a parallelogram. It is going to give us shapes under this parallelogram. We are going to be considering the rhombus on its own. We are going to be considering a rectangle on its own. We are going to be considering a square. They have properties which are taken from the parallelogram as a shape, this one. It then gives us these other shapes, which is the rhombus, the rectangle, and the square. This is the major part that you're supposed to know. The properties, once you understand the properties of a parallelogram, you are going to see that it will be easier for you to define these three. So meaning to say we have got 1, this is the second shape, this is the third shape, this is the fourth shape. That you must know their properties. Then we are going to consider a separate condition which does not share any properties with a parallelogram. It does not share any properties with a rhombus, a rectangle, a square. The only thing that we consider is being a four-sided shape, being a quadrilateral. That is referred to as a trapezium. And we also have the kite. So these are the 6 typical quadrilaterals that you're going to be consider in your examination. Like when they're going to ask questions, they want you to know the properties of each. And even for you to answer the questions, you must understand these properties. So like I said, as the part of our class, we are going to consider these quadrilaterals separately. The first one is going to be a parallelogram. But what is it exactly that these all parallelograms share in common? They share the concept that they are four-sided shapes. That is what they share. The other property that they share, just like triangles, we saw that no matter how different looking the triangle is, inside the interior angles, the sum will add up to 180 degrees. Whether it is a right angled, whether it is a non, whether it's an isosceles, whether it is an equilateral triangle, the interior angles, they add up to 180. What about for quadrilaterals? Their interior angles, they add up to 360 degrees. So in this case, interior angles, so sum of interior angles, let us just say sum, that is if you add up everything, sum of interior, these are angles that we find inside of the shape. If we add all these 4 angles, the sum of interior angles, all right, is sum of interior angles is 360 degrees. When we are considering what? Quadrilaterals. As long it is a quadrilateral that you're talking about. So a parallelogram, it has got 4 sides, the sum of interior angles, 360. A trapezium, same thing. A kite, the same thing. A rhombus, a rectangle, a square. They have these as common properties. These are common properties for each quadrilateral that you're going to have. But as separately, they have their own properties. That is the ones that we want to see. So the first shape is going to be a parallelogram. So in this case, we are going to consider a parallelogram, which is actually the mother shape for other quadrilaterals that we saw, which is the rhombus, the rectangle, and the square. So what is the major property that a parallelogram has? All right, so I want us to see this part of our shapes, then it will be easier. It will be easier if I'm having something that is that we can relate to. All right, so let's consider something of this nature. All right, so it can be in this format. This is what we can have. Let us try to have another part and try to rotate this one like this. So we can have it in different layouts. But if we are to consider, all right, even if I do like this, can be like this. Can find it in this manner. So what is important on this shape are the sides which are parallel. Opposite sides are parallel. Opposite sides, opposite, are parallel. This is the major property that parallelograms have. Opposite sides will be parallel. Before we talk about any other consideration, opposite sides are parallel. So let us have this one as a major statement. This one is a quadrilateral. Is a quadrilateral. All right. This in which opposite, now this is the major part, in which opposite sides are parallel. So you understand me very soon. Opposite sides, opposite, they are parallel. Opposite sides are parallel. So you're going to notice that this is the major property or the mother property for these three that are remaining: the rhombus, the rectangle, the square. Because we say they are made from a parallelogram. It is the mother of these three. So the major property that this mother is giving to these three is what? The condition of parallel sides, which are opposite sides are parallel. So this is the major property, this one, for shapes which fall under parallelogram, which is what? A rhombus, a rectangle, a square. Do not forget that this is for all quadrilaterals. This one, the four-sided shape, sum of interior angles. This one is for all the shapes. But under a parallelogram, you are going to see that the property that we just mentioned will follow the rhombus, it will follow a rectangle, it will follow a square. That is what the mother gives to these other shapes, which is the parallelogram. So on its own now, as a parallelogram, what is going to happen? The opposite sides are also equal. So they are not just parallel, they are equal. So remember this indication, we saw it when dealing with triangles. If I put a line like this and I put a line like this, it shows that these two sides are equal. So I'm going to put this one here and also put it here to show that these two sides are equal. These ones that are opposite, they are also equal. So we're going to present differently. So let's put 2 here. Let's also put 2 here to show that these two sides are equal. So this is the major, this is another property now that we are going to consider as part of parallelogram on its own, but not forgetting where it is taken from here, the major property. All right, so there we can just add opposite sides are equal. All right. Another property is on the angles. The angles that are opposite these ones, they are also equal. So this one, it is going to be later explained. I'm going to expand that one, or you're going to understand that one later on as you are to approach your grade 9 mathematics, grade 10, because we have those properties of parallelize, this and that. But as for your level, as for now, just know that opposite angles are what? Are equal. So if we are to say our quadrilateral, let's say it is given as A, B, C, D. I'm saying angle B and angle D are equal. So this is the other property, opposite. So you must know these properties by heart from now, guys. You are going to continue with these properties until you finish your grade 12 from here. All right? So opposite angles are equal. Until you finish your grade 12, you must know these properties. All right? Meaning to say angle B and angle D. Also angle C and A. This angle A and angle C. So on this part here, which angles are we talking about? We say the B and the opposite. So angle B is equal to angle D. Angle A is equal to angle C. Angle A is equal to angle C. This is a property that you must also understand. Another property, this one, I'm just going to talk about, but it is not important for you guys. You know it or you're going to use it later on in grade 9 and grade 10. It is about the diagonals, these ones. These diagonals, they bisect each other. All right. So I'm not going to indicate it on the diagram so that you do not get confusion. I'm just going to write it down for the sake of just knowing these properties, as you are going to have a continuation in the other grades. So diagonals bisect each other. So to bisect is to divide into two equal parts. Bisect each other. Okay, so this one, it is just for the sake of you knowing. And another property is the adjacent angles, they add up to 180. These angles that are adjacent to each other, angle B and C, angle A and D, if I add them, they must give me 180 degrees. Angle D and C, angle A and B, adjacent angles always add up to 180 degrees, meaning to say they are supplementary. So sum of the adjacent angles is 180 degrees. Which adjacent angles are we talking about? Angles that are sitting next to each other. This one and this one, next to each other. So from this, which examples are we talking about? B and C, they are adjacent to each other. So if I add angle B plus angle C, I must get 180 degrees. Angle A and B, they are adjacent to each other. Every adjacent, angle A plus angle B is equal to 180 degrees. Angle A and D, they are adjacent to each other. Angle A plus angle D is equal to 180 degrees. Remember we said sum, they add up to 180. Another one, angle D and C, they are adjacent to each other. So we have angle D, also angle D plus angle C is equal to 180 degrees. There I'm just giving you examples from that part that you're talking about to say which part exactly are we referring to as adjacent. So this is the condition, guys. Everything you know. So opposite sides, parallel and equal. Parallel and equal. Opposite angles, equal. Opposite angles, they are equal. Adjacent angles add up to 180 degrees. Diagonals bisect each other. You are done. So guys, you can memorize this. Actually, you must know this, like I said, up to your grade 12 mathematics. So that is what you're going to consider on a parallelogram. So with these properties, I want us to see how do they ask some of the questions using these properties. Using these properties, we are focusing on a parallelogram as for this class. Okay, so considering what we are given here, another part, they gave us ABCD is a parallelogram. Guys, once they tell you that this shape is a parallelogram, you must, in your head, know all the properties. The moment that you're told, these properties, they must ring in your head. Okay? Once you know this, you're done. So let's see what are they saying. Calculate with reasons the unknown angles indicated by X and Y. All right. So there they are just giving according to this textbook. It can be another textbook and write another thing. An abbreviation for parallelogram is this one. So if we are writing parallelogram in short, we can just write it as in short. This is the abbreviation. Instead of a parallelogram, you can just say a PAM. Okay? Just like that. So here, they said calculate with reasons the indicated angles X, which is indicated by X and Y. All right? So we are talking about angles. What is the property that you know about angles? Is there any property that you know about angles? That property can be used now to find these angles X and Y. Okay? Remember we said on angles, let's get to angles. Where there are angles, what is the property that we said? Opposite, all right? This one on angles, opposite angles are equal. Opposite angles are equal on a parallelogram. It is happening on a parallelogram. It's a property, this one, of a parallelogram. So opposite angles, meaning to say angle X is equal to what? To 55. These are opposite. So by default, guys, there is no way angle X must be equal to 55 degrees. This one. These are opposite angles. So where are we taking it from? We did not take it from Norway, guys. We took this from the property of the parallelogram. That is what we know about this shape. It is its own property. So that is the reason. Don't just take like you just took this answer from Norway. The reason is because we know opposite angles. I'm just going to write in short, opposite angles, opposite angles. All right? Of what? Of a parallelogram. This is in short, a parallelogram in short. I'm just going to write like this. Opposite angles of a parallelogram in short. If you want to write in full, guys, you can write. It's up to you. Okay? Was it the only reason that we could have determined this? No. What about this A and B? There's something that we talked about on adjacent sides of a parallelogram. Remember, there's something that we talked about this. We said adjacent angles, on the adjacent angles, the sum of the adjacent angles is 180 degrees. Sum, if I add angles that are adjacent, B and C, adjacent to each other, I must get 180. A and B, I must get 180. So let's use that one and see if it is going to give us the same thing, because we can see that X and 125, they are adjacent to each other, these two. So another way that we could have answered this question was, if I add X, which is angle B, plus 125 degrees, which is angle A, these two that are adjacent to each other, I must get 180 degrees. So this is your statement. What about the reason for that? The reason is from the properties of what? The shape. Sum of adjacent angles. So this is about what? Sum of the adjacent angles of what? A parallelogram. Of a parallelogram. The sum of these adjacent angles, they add up to 180 degrees. So we can find X, because this is an equation. So solve what for X? We take 125. Remember, we dealt with equation in this term. So we take 125 to the other hand. The moment it crosses the equal sign, it becomes a minus. It was a plus, so it changes the sign. So therefore, X is equal to 180 minus 125. We are solving the equation, guys. So we can subtract 180 degrees minus 125. So this was going to give us 55 degrees. The same value of X that we said direct. This one was direct. But this one, you can see you have to solve. So sometimes under exam, they might not give you this 55, this one, and this one. They might just give you these two. So know both ways. Know both ways. Okay? That is another way that we could have answered this question. As you can see, we have got the same answer. Let us move on to another part, which is to calculate or to give the value of y this time. All right, so we managed to find X. What about Y? So we can use the same concept, guys, to find Y. Remember, opposite angles of a parallelogram, they are equal. So definitely by default, Y is equal to what? 125 degrees. Y is equal to 125 degrees. The reason being opposite angles of a parallelogram. All right? That's what we could have answered this direct, guys. We know the properties. Or we could have used the adjacent angles, D and C. They are adjacent. So Y plus 55 degrees must give us what? 180 degrees. Remember, we are talking about what? Sum of adjacent angles of a parallelogram. This is a property that we talked about. They add up to 180 degrees. So to find Y, we can take 55 to the other side. So it's going to be a negative 180 minus 55. And that was going to give us 125 degrees, the same answer. So this is another way that we could have answered this question. Or you just answer straight like this, straight. So many ways. Don't be limited, guys, with dealing with mathematics. So that is also the purpose of the comment section. Let's communicate. You've got another way of determining. Don't be limited. It's maths, guys. So many options. Okay? So on the other part, we are given PQRS is a parallelogram. PQRS is a parallelogram. So the moment that we are told that this is a parallelogram, we know its properties. Opposite sides, they are what? Parallel and equal. Opposite sides, parallel and equal. This is what we know. But later on, they gave us another information. PQ is equal to QT. From this one, PQ is equal to QT is equal to PT is equal to TR. It's another information that you are given. Meaning to say, if this is 6 centimeters, it means also this is 6 centimeters. This is also 6 centimeters. From T to R, it is also 6 centimeters. It is also 6. And the other part that we are not even told is what? RS. And this other length that you're given. But we are just being given these guys, we can fill in this part, because we are told it's equal, and we can see that. So the question here was, calculate with reasons the length now of the sides of PQRS, of the side PQRS, the sides of what? The parallelogram that you're given. Can you find all the given length? Okay. So what is it that we are going to find? PQ is a side that we have already filled up as part of the parallelogram. This one. From which concept? Because we are given that it is equal to PT. So this one we can just write it direct from P to Q. It is equal to 6 centimeters. Remember, we are told, this one we are told. So the reason now is because we are told about this PQ being equal to PT here. PQ is equal to also, PT is equal, these, they are, all of them, they're equal. It is given. PQ is equal to what? To PT. It is given. There is no reason to say because of this property of a shape. No, 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 no. The same thing here from Q to T, this one. From Q to T. It is given. Because you're told here, QT and this one, they're also equal. So it's a part that we can have from Q to T. It is also 6 centimeters. Because the QT is same as what? As PT, this one. Because QT is equal to PT. It's given. Another part that we filled on our diagram is TR. We can also name this one from T to R, because it is the same as what? As PT. So it is 6 centimeters again. Because TR is equal to what? To PT. We are given that information. So therefore, the whole side of the given quadrilateral, which is our parallelogram, from Q to R, can be calculated. We can calculate that one. From Q to R. We just add 6 and 6, which is 12. So QR is equal to what? 12 centimeters. That is simply by adding from Q to what? To T. QT plus T to what? T to R. We just add. Because we have already these before. So you just have to add. But remember, this is what? A parallelogram where opposite sides are equal. So by default, if we know that QR is 12 centimeters, therefore PS, the whole of that PS is also 12 centimeters. Remember the properties of what? A parallelogram. So PS is equal to 12 centimeters. The reason is opposite sides of a parallelogram. Opposite sides of a parallelogram of a palm. PS. What is missing is RS. Opposite to what? To PQ. So we're back. Opposite sides are what? Are equal, remember. They are parallel and also equal. So by default, RS is equal to 6 centimeters. Opposite sides of a parallelogram. These are the where you have a reason from the property of the shape. You use that from the property of the shape, opposite sides of what? A parallelogram. You know that they're equal. So these are the typical questions that you might be given. Just make sure that you do revise as many questions as you can. And if you've got any other questions that you do not understand, you can make sure that you join the WhatsApp group, which is meant for grade 8 to 12 mathematics. So you can you can actually scan this code so that you'll be able to access the WhatsApp group so that you send your questions where you need assistance. And also the other part of our group, which is for the Maths on African Motives. You can also scan to try to enter this group so that you can be able to send your questions. Let's say you do not understand what we have been referring to in this class. So that is it, guys. That is it. You just have to work out as many questions as you can as an individual. Like I said, revise the properties of each and every shape. So we are going to see in our next class working with another property of the 2D shapes.